I don't know if you fully appreciate how much the American people do not support this war. It is an unauthorized war. Normally, when you come to Congress, it's a way for the American people to be part of that discussion. The American people, particularly in my state of New York, are upset for a lot of reasons. First of all, this war is costing so much money. Over $25 billion already, estimates $1 billion a day, and they're feeling it every single day at the gas pump with higher prices for both fuel, for diesel, for gasoline for their cars. They're also feeling it with higher grocery costs, and they're exhausted. They are truly exhausted. On top of that, they have so many grave concerns about how this war is being prosecuted.
$1 billion a day. That is what Senator Kirsten Gillibrand says the Iran war is costing the American people every single day. And Americans are feeling it at the gas pump, at the grocery store, in their wallets every time they try to fill up their car. She walked into a hearing with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and asked him one question that nobody in Washington seems to want to answer. Why are you continuing to prosecute a war that 3 out of 5 Americans are against? Hegseth had an answer, but Gillibrand was not finished, because then she asked about the schools, the hospitals, the civilians, and the department Hegseth quietly cut by 90%, the one responsible for making sure civilians do not get caught in the crossfire. And it only gets worse from here.
I don't know if you fully appreciate how much the American people do not support this war. It is an unauthorized war. Normally, when you come to Congress, it's a way for the American people to be part of that discussion. The American people, particularly in my state of New York, are upset for a lot of reasons. First of all, this war is costing so much money. Over $25 billion already, estimates $1 billion a day, and they're feeling it every single day at the gas pump with higher prices for both fuel, for diesel, for gasoline for their cars. They're also feeling it with higher grocery costs, and they're exhausted. They are truly exhausted. On top of that, they have so many grave concerns about how this war is being prosecuted. They read in the paper that 22 schools have been hit. They read in the paper about a girls' school, hundreds getting killed. We have a debate going on in this country about AI, a serious debate about AI. And I haven't heard yet from you that you will not allow AI to make final targeting determinations, even when nuclear weapons are being used. That's a huge issue that we need to discuss. So I want to start from the top, Secretary Hegseth. Why do you continue to prosecute a war that the American people aren't behind?
First of all, I appreciate the opportunity for that closed session where we had a, unsurprisingly, very different discussion than we have here with the cameras on. We support this.
Because my job is to represent New Yorkers, and I can tell you, when I talk to them all across my state, they are furious, and they expect me to explain to them why they are furious.
And Senator, when I talk to Americans, and especially when I talk to the troops, they are grateful for a president who has the courage to take on this threat after 47 years of what Iran has done, targeting and killing Americans, and what it would mean to the world if Iran's nuclear ambitions were actually achieved. So the question I would ask to you and to others is, what is the cost of a nuclear-armed Iran? What is the cost to the American people if the world's most dangerous regime has a nuclear weapon?
But the truth is, they don't want war coming to this shore, and when you do a decapitation operation, the likelihood is going to be exchanged in the United States. There's no evidence that we are safer because of this war. We did not have any evidence that Iran intended to imminently attack this country in any way, shape, or form. So I disagree with your assessment that we are under threat.
Do you not believe them when they say death to America?
Listen, our adversaries use rhetoric all the time. What I'm concerned about is we are not safer, and I would just like to know why you have not sought the support of the American people, and 3 out of 5 Americans are against this war today.
I believe we do have the support of the American people, and we have briefed regularly what this mission looks like and why it's critically important that we undertake it. And I would remind you and this group that we're 2 months in to an effort. And many congressional Democrats, as I pointed out, want to declare defeat 2 months in. Iraq took how many years? Afghanistan took how many years? And they were nebulous missions that people went along with. This is different. This is a defined mission set that we have had great success in pursuing against a determined enemy who seeks nuclear weapons. And I'm proud of the opportunity to remind the American people, because they believe in it as well, that they can't have it.
You don't care whether the American people support this war.
The American people are quite smart. They understand and see through spin. They know that a regime that says death to America, that seeks nuclear weapons and the ability to deliver. Did they lie about the range of their missiles?
How much
Because I saw a 4,000 kilometer
How much more will you
missile
ask the
get
American
shot
people
at
to pay for this war?
Diego
right
Garcia.
now, do you want it $1 billion a day? Do you want it $2 billion a day? You're asking for $200 billion more to fund this war and to make sure we have
didn't ask for $200 billion. I don't know where you got that number from, Senator. I think you got it from the news, which you should be careful what you read in the news.
Okay, Mr. Hegseth, here, Secretary Hegseth, here's a few more. Let's talk about how you're prosecuting the war. What is your response to targeting that has resulted in the destruction of schools, hospitals, civilian places? Why did you cut by 90% the division that's supposed to help you not target civilians? And do you know the impact of a strategic failure at a war when you have so many civilian casualties? You may have tactically completed a mission well, but strategically is not meeting your goals because of the harms to civilians. What is the cost of that?
Let's leave time for an answer.
No military, no country works harder at every echelon to ensure they protect civilian lives than the United States military. And that is a ironclad commitment that we make, no matter what systems
and
we
why
use.
did you cut the department by 90%? They have so
Senator
many grave
Kirsten Gillibrand
concerns
sat
about
across
how
from
this war
Defense
is being
Secretary Pete
prosecuted.
Hegseth and opened with a statement
They
that
read
cut
in
through
the paper
every talking
that
point in
22
the room.
schools have been hit.
The American
They read in
people
the
do
paper
not
about a
support this
girls'
war.
school.
She
Hundreds
told
getting
Hegseth
killed.
directly that she did not think
We
he
have a
fully
debate going on in
appreciated
this
how
country
deep that
about
opposition
AI.
ran. She called it an
serious debate about
unauthorized war,
AI.
one that never came
And
to
I haven't
Congress for
heard yet
approval,
from you that you
never
will
gave
not
the
allow
American
AI
people
to
a seat
make
at the
final
table,
targeting
and never asked for their blessing
even when
before the
nuclear
first
weapons are
strike was
being
launched.
used. That's a huge
She laid out the
issue that we need
cost.
to discuss.
Over $25
So I
billion
want to start from the top,
already
Secretary
spent.
Hegseth.
Estimates of $1 billion
Why do you
a
continue
day
to
going
prosecute a war
forward.
that the American
And
people
Americans
aren't
were not
behind?
just seeing it in the headlines. They were feeling it in their daily lives.
First of all,
Higher
I
gas
appreciate the
prices,
opportunity for
higher
that
diesel
closed session
prices,
where we had
higher
a,
grocery bills.
unsurprisingly, very different
She said her
discussion than we have
constituents in
here
New
with
York
cameras
were
on.
furious,
We
exhausted,
support this.
and they
Because my
expected her
job
to
is
come to that
represent
hearing
New
and
Yorkers, I
demand
can tell you,
answers.
when I talk
But the
to
money
them,
was not even her
all
biggest
across my
concern.
state, they are
She said
furious,
Americans were reading
and
in the
they expect
newspapers
me
that
to explain
22
to them
schools had been
why they
hit,
are furious.
that a girls' school had been
Senator, when I
struck with
talk to
hundreds
Americans,
killed,
and especially
and
when
in the
I talk
middle
to
of a
troops,
national debate
they
about
are grateful
artificial
for a president
intelligence
who
and
has the
autonomous
courage to take
weapons.
on this threat
She
after
said she had
47
not
years
yet
of what
heard
Iran has
Hegseth
done, targeting
confirm
and killing
that
Americans,
AI would
and
not
what
be
it would mean
allowed
to
to
the
make
world
final
if
targeting
Iran's nuclear
decisions,
ambitions
even
were
when
actually
nuclear
achieved.
weapons were
So the
involved.
question I would ask
She
you and
asked
to
him
others is,
plainly,
what is the cost
why
of
do
a
you
nuclear-armed
continue to
Iran?
prosecute
What
a
is the
war
cost
the
of
American
that that
people
is
are not
rhetorical
behind?
world's most dangerous
that you are
regime
asking
has a
Hegseth
nuclear
pushed
weapon.
back immediately.
But the truth
He
is,
said
they
the
don't want war
closed
coming
session
to this
earlier
shore,
that day,
and when you
without
do
cameras,
decapitation
had produced a
operation,
very
the
different
likelihood is
conversation.
going to be
He said when
exchanged in
he
the
talked to
United
Americans,
States. There's
and
no
especially
evidence
to
that
the
we are
troops,
safer because
they
of
were
this
grateful
war.
for a
We did
president
not
who
have
had
any
the courage
evidence
to
that Iran
confront a threat that had been
intended
building
to
for
imminently attack
47
this
years.
country in any way,
He
shape, or
asked the
form.
question back,
So I
what is the
disagree with
cost
your
of a
assessment
nuclear-armed
that we are
Iran?
under threat.
What does
You
it
have
mean
not
to the
when they
world
say
if
death
the
to
most
America.
dangerous regime on earth
Listen,
gets a nuclear
our
weapon?
adversaries use rhetoric all the
Gillibrand did
time.
not flinch.
What
She
I'm
said there was
concerned
no
about is we
evidence
are not
Iran
safer,
intended to
and I would
imminently
just
attack
like
the
to
United
know
States in any
why
way.
you have not
She said
sought
the
the support of the
decapitation
American
operation
people,
Hegseth was
and 3
defending
out of 5
was more
Americans
likely to
are
bring
against this war
retaliation to
today.
American shores than prevent it. She said 3
believe
out of
we do
5
have the
Americans
support of the
opposed the
American
war,
people, and we have
and she
briefed
wanted to know why
regularly
the administration
what this
had
mission
not
looks
sought
like
their
and why it's
support before
critically
launching
important
it.
that we undertake it. And I would
Hegseth said
remind
he
you and
believed
this
they
group
did have the support of the
that we're
American
2
people,
months in
and that the
to an
mission had
effort.
been regularly
And
briefed to
many
Congress.
congressional Democrats,
He
as
pointed
I
out they were
pointed out,
only
want
2
to
months
declare
in,
defeat
and that
2
many
months
congressional
in.
Democrats were already
Iraq took
calling
how
it
many
a
years?
defeat.
Afghanistan
He
took how
compared
many
it to
years? And they were
Iraq and
nebulous
Afghanistan,
missions that
conflicts
people
that went
went
on
along
for
with.
years
This
with
is
no
different.
defined
This is
mission.
a defined
He said this was
mission
different,
set
a specific
that we have had
mission
great
set with
success in
measurable
pursuing
goals against an enemy actively pursuing nuclear weapons. Gillibrand fired back. She said the American people were smart. They could see through spin. They understood that a regime chanting death to America and developing the ability to deliver long-range missiles was not something that disappeared with one military operation. Then she turned to the money. She asked how much more the American people would be expected to pay. $1 billion a day? $2 billion? She referenced reports of $200 billion in additional funding being sought for the war effort. Hegseth interrupted and said that number was wrong. He told her to be careful about what she read in the news. Gillibrand moved on without missing a beat. She asked about civilian casualties, about the destruction of schools and hospitals, about the targeting practices that had resulted in strikes on civilian infrastructure, and then she asked the question that may have been the sharpest of the entire exchange. Why did Hegseth cut by 90% the division inside the Defense Department specifically responsible for ensuring civilians are not targeted? Hegseth responded that no military on Earth works harder at every level to protect civilian lives than the United States military. He called it an ironclad commitment. Gillibrand looked at him and asked again, why did you cut that department by 90%? The clock ran out before he could answer. An unauthorized war, $1 billion a day, schools and hospitals hit, a civilian protection office gutted by 90%, and a defense secretary who ran out of time before he could explain why. The American people are still waiting for that answer.